listening to America First Radio.
And we're gonna win, win, win. And we're gonna make America great again.
Here is your host, Paul Adams.
Well, what can I tell you that you don't already know? A lot of saber rattling going on over what? Over greater Israel in the Middle East, over some oil, over a pipeline going through Syria, over installing a Rothschild central bank in Syria, maybe to cancel the election in the United States, maybe for all of the above reasons. There are as many reasons right now to start a world war as there were reasons by various factions to assassinate JFK. Russia has just launched a no-fly zone over Syria, meaning that any U.S. planes flying over Syria will be shot down. In response, U.S. generals are threatening devastation. So they are probably trying to cancel the election, in my opinion. It just doesn't smell good. And we know that Soros' ultimate achievement, his lifelong ambition, has been to take down America. Well, let's move on to the VP debate. I'll touch on that a little bit here. But I want to do my ritual, which is a Hillary bash. Compared to Trump, Trump has said some abrasive things which he apologized for. They were said in the heat of the moment, the heat of battle. But Trump is to Hillary what an allergic reaction is to the bubonic plague. I keep praying for Mr. Trump and for America. I just fasted for America last Sunday, and I hear there are major prayer rallies happening all around the nation for America and for Mr. Trump. Now, having done all this, I'm still not letting my guard down. Okay, I'm watching every move by all the players. That includes the globalists. I'm looking at SYRIA. I'm looking at all the different elements that are coming into play at this juncture. We don't really need to go over the debate between Kaine and Pence. The optics alone told the whole story. If you put the debate on mute and you watch the body language, the facial expressions, you get a pretty good read on who is more presidential. Should he ever need to step into the president's shoes? Now, if you add the audio, you'll be 1,000% convinced that Pence won the debate. Tim Kaine gave the Jesuits a very bad name to their already tarnished PR image, because you see, Jesuits don't believe in national borders. They want a one world order, by the way. Just saying, the truth is so obvious. It's hiding in plain sight. So enough about the debate. Now, on to Mr. Trump. I see some emphasis here for fundraising on Mr. Trump's part. It's a last-minute drive to raise money. There are signed hats going for $183. There's a chance to sit at the debate if you donate by a certain deadline. And I'm thinking this is about recouping his campaign cost. That's about all. Obviously, he's had a huge expense, and he needs to make up for it. My question is the election fixed? I have great faith that Mr. Trump is the man God has tapped for president. I just pray he wins. I pray for America. I pray he wins. But, there's a disconnect sometimes between my faith and my rational mind. They're not always in sync, okay? This is where I have some slippage sometimes, where the gears are not meshing. Trump will call an ABC correspondent a sleaze for not getting the facts straight, and then asks the queen of corruption, the skank of the century, the high priestess of Alinsky's Luciferian radicals, he asks her if it is okay if he calls her secretary in that last debate, just to keep her happy. So I'm asking myself, am I in a reality show? Is this the Truman Show? What kind of deals have been hammered out in the back rooms? As I've said many times before, I'm a jaded, cynical, old school, no holds barred, tell like it is freedom fighter. I've stood nose to nose with some pretty tough, bad scumbags in my lifetime, as well as some very saintly, Christ-like people. You might say I'm from Missouri, the show me state. Prove it to me. I take nothing at face value. And if there's a hint, a suggestion of a scent of a hint that something is a bit off, I will slam on the brakes. I question everything, especially the mainstream media. See, I haven't had a television set since 2008, so right now I'm doing all of my own thinking. So for now, the jury's out. I'm holding on to my faith that Mr. Trump will be elected and will be the President of the United States, and who will be here when Jesus Christ returns for the second time. Now, I know that's way up there, 200,000 feet, Christian eschatology, but it is what it is. It will be the greatest show on earth. It will be huge. And who better to preside over it than Mr. Trump? Mr. Trump has got to be the best thing America could ever hope for. He's got the biggest heart. He's the boldest, most fearless man. And God will even magnify him and enlighten him and embolden him even more. You just watch. He's not done with Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump is a work in progress, okay? Mr. Trump, you haven't arrived yet. Just watch. Watch how God works with you. Just chill. Let him do his thing. I really don't care what happens in the next two debates. I really don't. He could let Hillary skate. He could give her a pass. He could be so nice to her. I still think Hillary is on her way out. I still fear that there may be something in the back rooms here that has been discussed, and that they may have to cancel the election and start a war. But I think the people will prevail, the American people will prevail, and force the issue, force an election, and have Mr. Trump elected at the end of the day. So we have two debates still to go. I think it'll be huge. I think God will show his hand. He will show his ace up his sleeve. He will deliver the goods. It will be like the parting of the Red Sea. It'll be like the writing on the wall. The invisible hand writing on the wall. All nations will see it. It'll be so obvious that Hillary is out. She's done. Now, the other beautiful thing is that Mr. Trump wants to make Jerusalem the unpartitioned capital of Israel. I'm all for that, which is exactly what must happen if the third temple of Jerusalem is to be built. Now, just straying off a little bit here, going to the Old Testament. Remember the Ark of the Covenant? Remember the havoc and the destruction it created wherever the Israelites carried it. I'm talking Israelites, not just the Jews, not the tribe of Judah alone, but all 12 tribes. Wherever they carried it, it created havoc for its enemies. So the next best thing for an Ark of the Covenant, which is where God's laws were kept, the Ten Commandments, and it was kept in the Holy of Holies, where purity resides, total purity, no unclean thing can enter into it. The next best thing for that kind of Ark of a Covenant stick with me here, especially if you're a believer, if you're a deist, a theist, is to have bodies, mortal bodies, that are pure in mind and heart, where God's laws are etched and burnished and celebrated. Okay? Are you connecting the dots here? Do some thinking on that, okay? Do some thinking on that. The Ark of the Covenant, minds and hearts that have God's laws kept within a holy temple, because your body is your temple. Do some thinking on that. What I say needs to be sealed. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear. Those who have no ears to hear, let them stay in darkness. Moving on. On a positive note, Mr. Trump has been absolutely hammering Hillary in his rallies. He's like a pile driver. I expect this to continue in the debates. Of course, there's no guarantee. He may just be very nice to her, you know. It'll be like Elijah drenching the altars before God made his move. You know, let's keep those altars wet. Keep that sacrifice wet. We need to prove a point here. Now, there is a troubling side to this election. A troubling side to someone like Mr. Trump coming into the forefront and winning, you know, the primaries, and now he's about to win the election. It's troubling because it signals that only a self-funding billionaire who is not paid and bought for, who is accountable to no one, over whom the donor class has absolute no control, who cannot be bribed, corrupted by George Soros or the Koch brothers or the Rothschild apparatus. Only someone like him can really take America back and keep it on track. So we have a huge problema. It's a huge problem. Hear me out. This means that this may be the last election we will ever see this happen, because think of it. What will happen when he's out of office after his term is expired? Do you think the globalists will have gone away? In your dreams, they will be there. They will come back with a vengeance. So we have a small window here when he gets in to fix this. To fix it so that we are never again held hostage by the globalists, where never again the mainstream media creates the matrix of our reality, where no Luciferian Trojan horses backed by globalist banks can ever enter the political arena again. Because look, wealth and power don't mix very well with human beings. Okay, human beings can be reduced into freaks and do things, you know, to benefit themselves at the expense of everybody else. People like Soros, for example. He even said it in an interview. He says, I used to be human before I became a businessman. And he has said that my life's culminating work is the destruction of America. So that's what power does. See, the globalists see us as expendable roaches, useless eaters, as organisms which decay and come with future cash flows. You know, our incomes are considered cash flows, and those are traded. That's why we have a Social Security number. We are looked upon as irredeemable basement dwellers, deplorable white trailer trash, taco bowls, bimbos, deadbeats. We are just numbers on a balance sheet, numbers that must be managed and controlled so that future cash flows can be projected and forecast, so that we can pay our taxes to pay for the wars which they start so that they can pillage countries of their resources. These subhuman demons have no conscience. The ends justify the means always, and they are ruthless. See, killing millions of people to achieve their objective is reduced to a logistical problem. Soros, that Jew who backstabbed his own people when he sympathized with the Nazis, is now backing Hillary and Cain. And if he sees that they can't win, he will unleash hell on earth in some other way to destroy America, which takes us back to Syria. So back to the huge problem we face. America cannot survive another globalist in the White House. Once Mr. Trump's term is finished, ended, what's going to happen to America? So we need to start thinking about how we will keep the Republic from being taken over by neocons, by Zio-globalists, as I call them, or Marxists or socialists, who all have one thing in common. They drape themselves in causes to enrich themselves. They are all Trojan horses, wolves in sheep's clothing. Neocons are in it for themselves, for the multinational corporations. Zionists are in for themselves. They want a greater Israel. That's their end game. That aims for an Israel that stretches from the Mediterranean to the Euphrates, which will not be won by Jewish blood, but by American and NATO blood. This is the tail wagging the dog, folks. Then there's the Marxists. They want a totalitarian global order where no one can believe in God, where religion is banished. Socialists want the few at the top to benefit from the labor of the impoverished 99% at the bottom, while they tell the 99% that poverty builds character, and to get used to it, because aiming high turns you into a selfish, privileged bigot. That's their narrative. So how do we fix this? How do we stop the insanity? Because insanity, the definition is to keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Now, I've come up with a solution that would ensure the people their own government. I have been saying this for some time now, that we have to stop the insanity. It is insane because it is holding on to the belief that people elected to Congress will someday mysteriously stop getting corrupted. If you really believe this, will happen, or if you believe that by shortening term limits, suddenly bribery and pay-to-play will be eliminated, you are the fulfillment of the definition of insanity. You don't mind the merry-go-round. You just want a faster merry-go-round. Then I hear these Pollyanna types with their heads stuck up their butts spew garbage like, if only honest people can be elected into Congress, all will work itself out. They are like a car that's stuck in second gear. That is the extent of their imagination. It's the limit of their creativity to solving a very complex problem. They are the terminally brain damaged. People will be bought out for the right price. Globalists know how to get to you, no matter how honest you are. They know how to blackmail you, frame you, threaten you, kill you, bribe you, cause you to commit suicide. Nothing can get in their way. Do you get that? So how do we fix it? I'm all about solutions. I'm about thinking out of the box right now. I'm a revolutionary. What political model can best approximate a government that is of, by, and for the people? The Founding Fathers weren't old farts who couldn't figure it out. Most of them were young, brilliant, abrasive in their speech, reactionaries, gifted, bold enough to challenge the British Crown and tell King George where to shove it. You understand? That's what America is all about. It's about inventing a new way of doing things. We need more people like the Founding Fathers. We need men and women with titanium balls or ovaries, as the case may be, to think out of the box, to challenge the status quo, to have the audacity to say enough is enough. This is never going to work. We need drastic change, or we can kiss our liberties and all that our progenitors fought for goodbye. Think about it. Just think for a minute how much blood has been shed to make America free, to keep America free. Think of all the wars, the protests, the sacrifices, all for what? For what we claim we are exporting to other countries when we attack them. We are exporting what? What are we exporting? We're exporting democracy. That's what we're exporting, supposedly. All for that. All for a government that is of, by, and for the people. That's what for. All for a lifestyle where we can live in peace and think and say what we want. So I have my solution. I invite you now to explore it and also to offer your solutions, amendments to my solution. Brainstorm, sit with your family, and throw ideas around. You may like my idea, you may not. Bottom line, we need to eliminate the current disjointed, dysfunctional government model that we have in place. We have to start off with a premise that we want a government that is of, by, and for the people. That is non-negotiable. We also have to implement our latest technologies. We have to ask ourselves what would make for a transparent government, a fair government, a government that reflected the wants, hopes, aspirations, and wishes of the people. Imagine if Jefferson, Hamilton, Adams, Washington, Franklin, and Madison were alive today. These were renegades, okay? What would they have done differently? Would they have incorporated current technologies? I think they most certainly would have. Why? Because they would have seen how the government used technologies to control the people. And they would have figured out that there's something wrong with that picture. That's the first thing they would have done, is wake up people and cause them to focus on the problem, which is what I'm doing and others should be doing. First, you have to recognize there is a problem. You have to define it, delineate it, describe it, distill it in simple language so that everyone can understand it and is on the same page. Then you brainstorm. You put every imaginable solution on the table without criticizing it, critiquing it. Not yet. That's the next step. After you have all the solutions on the blackboard, then you start criticizing and taking them apart one by one. Now, I've brainstormed and came up with a model, and I already know what the weaknesses are. I know what the weak links are. But that is the best I could come up with. Now, you do the same, come up with a solution, and work it out. We need public discussion. We need to debate it. Here's my solution. For me, the House of Representatives is the weak link. Why? Because It answers to the donor class, the special interests. It no longer represents the people. Okay, that's a joke. Come on. Heck, representatives don't even reply to their emails or return phone calls. And even if they do you think they really care what you think? They have an agenda. They can't even impeach a treacherous president. They're all paid and bought for. Ditto for the Senate. But let's go easy here and just say repeal the House of Representatives. And with our technology, we can replace the representatives with direct representation, where the people represent themselves. And you can say, how do we do that? Well, we keep the Senate intact, where bills can be discussed and debated. We need some discussion at higher levels. But direct representation takes the form of a triple secured, and by triple secured I mean it has to be bulletproof. It's a unhackable U.S. citizen online account. If you have a secured bank account, this account would be 10 times more secure. Think NSA security level, think Vatican, think bulletproof, unhackable online account. Now the detractors will balk, will say that any computer can be hacked. Well, the voting machines are now being hacked. And so we have got nothing to lose here. Anything is better than what we currently have in place. So if that's your concern, let's address it and aim for a solution instead of throwing it out of the window. Because one way or another, there's going to be computers and software at work. Banks and governments will always have computers. The issue is not whether or not the people should have their own mainframe or their own online account, but rather how can it best be secured. So my model is not as vulnerable as it seems. Okay? And with this online citizen account, you would need to be confirmed, first of all, and authenticated as a United States citizen. That would be the only way if this would work. Okay, it's like E-Verify on steroids. And then you'd be able to log on to your account and vote in elections at the local, state, federal level. You'd be able to impeach any elected official at the national, state, or local level. We all know there are ways to ensure only you can have access to your account. So you would also be able to vote on bills and veto bills that the President or the Senate have signed. You would be able to vote on referendums. You would be able to ratify constitutional amendments. Don't forget, there have been over 11,500 propositions for amendments to the Constitution since the inception of the Constitution. The only other vulnerability is that the masses right now are not, I don't want to disparage anybody, but they're not in tune enough, let's say, or smart enough or adept enough to weigh in on political matters. And that's largely due to the dumbing down that's been taking place over the last 10, 20 years. But there's a way to fix that. If that is the case, then we have to smarten up our people, starting in our homes, not at the school level, in our homes. We can teach the next generation to take ownership of their government. Don't expect the apparatus to teach you or your child how to rid yourself of the apparatus. It ain't gonna happen. So that is how I envision a government that is of, by, and for the people. And if you're going to give me rhetoric that we are a constitutional republic, blah, 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 and not a democracy, I urge you to reconsider carefully, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I would want to think that I am talking to a sane person. So this is the subject of discussion. Let me know what you think. You can call in with your opinions and I will post them in the next episode. Just leave me a message. The number to call is 424-354-9788. And especially get your children involved in the discussion. Let them have a stake in it. Let them take ownership. It starts at home, not at school. So either way, whether we do this or whether we don't, we may never have another billionaire running for president whose heart is in giving the people their government back, who is a nationalist. We may never have that opportunity ever again. Because you have to ask yourself, what are the odds that a common man or woman, and I would welcome a woman in the White House in a heartbeat. It would be refreshing. But what are the odds that a common Joe or Jane will ever occupy the White House without having to answer to donors? 0. Speaking of secured computers, in the news, this is what happens when a system is not secured. Okay, we just learned that GUCCIFER 2.0 has hacked the Clinton Foundation. What do we hear from the mainstream media? Pay-to-play folders were detected in that hack. Just think of that. Okay, they even named them pay-to-play folders. Donor databases exposed, numbers, names, and amounts contributed. We have learned that TARP funds, which were initially intended to bail out the banks, instead went to Democratic super PACs. Every single major bank is exposed. It shows how many dollars were funneled into the Democratic Committee for Congress. Every single miscreant that dipped into the funds, like Nancy Pelosi, is named. So we have to thank God for transparency. See, we need to have transparency. Yet, people, even after all this, even after we have WikiLeaks telling us that the DNC convention was stolen, people will still vote for Hillary. So who are these people? Well, let's take a guess. They are certainly women who want a president with a vagina in the White House. Hillary could have been cutting babies in half with a chainsaw, and they would still vote for her. Certainly we have the welfare class, the government employees whose jobs are on the line, the corporate welfare class. We definitely have the atheists, the globalists, the Luciferians for sure, the convicts and illegals who are not allowed to vote but are going to vote anyway. We have the occultists, the witches, the warlocks. And then there's the billionaire anti-American class of multinational executives. We have the La Raza crowds, the Bush acolytes who will vote Democrat just to keep the con game on Capitol Hill going. There's the neocons who need war to keep the wheels of war well greased. There's the free tuition crowd who actually believe Hillary will deliver on her every promise. Anyone I've missed? If you vote after the Benghazi bungle, if you vote for this career criminal that has lied to the FBI, that has sold her influence as Secretary of State to donors, If you want to vote for this person who has bullied into silence the woman her husband raped, for this woman who speaks to dead people like Eleanor Roosevelt. Now this is coming out of Bill Clinton's mouth. For this woman who used to participate in witch rituals in California, who wrote her thesis on Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, who is the quintessential radical, which book, by the way, was dedicated to Lucifer. If you're going to vote for this woman who has openly promised to wage war on Iran and Lebanon, as per the admissions of an ex-CIA agent, if you're going to vote for her who lies about having sent or received top-secret emails, if you vote for this plague, for this scourge that will be unleashed on America, you are actually wishing a curse on America, and are of the same ilk and mindset as George Soros. And so may God curse you with a curse you wish on America. May He wipe you off the face of the earth like He did those in the flood. You are the antithesis of what America stands for and what patriots fought for in the War of Independence. You are a Luciferian, one world order shill who wants to usher in a Luciferian, totalitarian age with no religion and no borders. You will give up your freedom in exchange for guaranteed security and shelter and food. May your home be visited with scourges and plagues for endorsing a Luciferian, lying, botched-up traitor like Hillary Clinton. The debate, if the supernatural is real, is over. Get over it. There are God-fearing, praying, and perfect people in this world. And there are people who do anything they want because they can and don't believe in laws and consequences. Newsflash. Even the mafia has laws and consequences for breaking their laws. Even Lucifer enters into deals, contracts. So don't tell me laws have no place in a civilized society. Either way, traitors, snitches, rats, and moles don't belong in any society. Bottom line, get used to it. We are one nation under God, not under Lucifer. In other news, and this is going to be a bit of a repeat here, while you have been watching Monday Night Football, 240,000 professional rescuers and 50,000 pieces of equipment have been deployed and activated in a civil defense exercise in Russia. Are you awake yet? It's taking place right now. Russia is preparing for World War III. They are serious. And the MSM, the lame, bought and paid for media, is fondling you and putting you to sleep. Why? To keep the public from linking Hillary to the Middle East powder keg, maybe? To pop a surprise, to let shock and awe have its effect when it happens. To keep the cattle from stampeding, because there's nothing worse than millions of people rampaging through D.C. or other parts of the country as they hunt down the Bushes, the Clintons, the Soros, all the rest of the miscreants, scumbags. So there are rumblings on the horizon. Now, let's get practical. Let's get down to ground zero. Do you have enough food and water to last you a year? If you can't do a year, do you have 3 months worth of food and water? If you can't do 3 months, how about 72 hours? Are you prepared? because don't rely on Big Brother to keep you afloat. Seriously, folks, you gotta get ready. Anything can happen between now and November 8th. We are dealing with crazed sociopaths who wouldn't bat an eye at the thought of nuking an entire city to create a false flag, which they would pin it on Russia and start a nuclear war. They would not bat an eye. So no option is off the table for them. There's a 98% chance right now of a war between the US and Russia taking place around the Middle East. This is coming from all sources. All the cracks in the woodwork. It's unanimous. And take out your Bibles. Start preparing for the second coming. Get your life in order. Stop abusing your bodies and your minds. Tune into God's higher frequencies that produce peace and love. Stop squandering your lives. Try to be kind to others. Help each other out. Think of your neighbor as yourself. The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do to you. That's how a society stays glued. So let's see what happens at the second debate. My hunch is that Mr. Trump will absolutely pulverize Hillary. What else is happening? Let's see. Just the usual voter fraud as we speak. The polls show Trump and Hillary a few points apart when she can barely pack 43 people in a rally. All this to prepare us for the election steal, I'm sure. Even the liberal Daily Beast is now feigning objectivity and is dissing on the Clintons. And Julian Assange did not dump his latest load of super-sensitive intel on the Clintons as he promised. Because, why? Because as whistleblowers have made it known, the White House has threatened Ecuador with serious repercussions if Assange leaks the information. Ecuador won't protect him if he releases anything considered damaging. So the cabal of snakes that have a stranglehold on America are playing for keeps here. I think that if you still want to vote for Hillary, there's nothing I can do for you. You're going to make your bed. Just be prepared to sleep in it. One last thing. Trust in the FBI has evaporated. There's nothing left. The shelves are empty. Trust in the government is gone. Nothing left. When trust is gone, no matter if it is gone in your family, in a government, in a nation, between friends, with your church pastor, when trust is gone, you can't conclude any kind of business. It's done. I just pray there are still some patriots in the armed forces and the CIA or the FBI who are willing to step forward and arrest the rats, arrest Obama for treason. The New York Times released Trump's tax returns. That's another newsflash. That was not legal on their part, and Trump will likely sue them, end up owning the New York Times. In other news, WikiLeaks, and this is very minor, has disclosed that Obama and Hillary were arming ISIS. And like I said before, since this is giving comfort to the enemy, it is considered treason. We even have the videotape of Obama saying he is training ISIL. So I'm going to end up on this note. I designed a meme for Hillary with the face of Hillary and giant crosshairs on her face, superimposed. And the writing says, blackmail target acquired. If she is hacked, she is compromised. If she is compromised, she is a liability. End of story. Why would you ever want to vote for a woman who will be president when she can be blackmailed. The entire nation can be blackmailed. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? God bless America.